Hi there, and welcome back to our map. We're continuing to zoom in and look at the PMBOK as if it was some kind of connection of processes, similar to the way the states of the country are joined together to create the United States of America. And you know that California and Connecticut are far apart and Colorado's in the center. Likewise, now you can tell where the processes are and where they are in executing, controlling, and closing. Okay, so we can see that as helping us. Okay, so in the previous ones, we did the processes, we did the outputs to do with initiating and planning, and now we're going to look at the outputs in executing, then the outputs in controlling, and then the outputs in closing. And of course, the point we want you to get is that the outputs become inputs, the outputs become inputs, and you can see here the outputs become inputs, the outputs become inputs, and both outputs become inputs. And so if you learn the outputs, you don't need to know the inputs, they kind of follow along. They're connected to each other. So continuing on, let's have a look at some of these together. So here we are in executing, direct and manage project work. So the primary deliverable here, the primary output, is going to be deliverables. That was me reading it ahead of time. So the deliverables, this is the noise, the orchestra, this is the efforts of the team members. And so this is the main output, of course. Now we have work performance data, and data, as you know, becomes information, information becomes knowledge. So we have data becomes information, information becomes knowledge, and knowledge becomes wisdom. We're going to see that when we get into controlling. And then we also have this one called the issues log. And the issues log, of course, is where we might have issues to do with the execution. We haven't decided what to do with them, but we will certainly log the issues here. So let's have a look now and see what execution can tell us about resourcing. And so the main one that we saw here was acquire the resources and then develop the team and manage the team. And so when we do that, we have to be aware that the project will give us these physical resource assignments. So now we know who what the physical resources are and where they're working, where the cranes are, where the diggers are, where the conference rooms are, where the physical resources. But we also have the project team. So these are the humans involved and where they're assigned to as well. So now we know where our physical resources, but also where our humans are, and we're able to have a list of that. And the one thing that we add here, which is interesting, is the resource calendars. So the resource calendar is in addition to the project calendar that we had over here, but now we know that this person is Chinese and they celebrate Chinese New Year, whatever. You get the idea of Ramadan or Golden Week or St. Patrick's Day or whatever it is. We know more about that person, and therefore we know more about their calendar, their personal calendar, whether they're having a baby, whether they're moving house or something like that. We might know more information. Now, when it comes to develop the team, we have this interesting one, team performance assessments. So the team performance assessments will go here, and you can see in manage the team, we have no outputs other than change requests. So all of these will have change requests, which kind of makes sense to me now that you see them coming in here into perform integrated change control. But so we might have a change request to do with the physical resources. We might have a change request to do with the team that's not working well together. We might have a change request to do with an individual on the team, and that's called manage the team. Okay, so we get to see that. Now let's have a look at some other ones here. We do have another one in the center, which is manage project knowledge. And obviously the point of managing the knowledge is to capture the lessons learned and share them with others. And so we have the lessons learned register. So that makes sense that we would have a lessons learned register. Now in quality, remember we used to call it assure quality, we now call it manage quality. It's the same thing. Assurance is better than control. Deming's 85-15, if you remember that. So here we're going to have two outputs included, the change requests, but we have quality reports, which are kind of similar to the risk reports we mentioned over here, but we'll have the quality reports over here and test and evaluation documents. Okay, test and evaluation documents over there. So we get some outputs from manage the quality. So let's go down and we look at communications now over here. So we look at communications, and obviously the output here will be the project communications. So again, it kind of says on the label what it is. Conducted procurements, you can see that we have some change requests potentially, but primarily what we're going to get is the agreements. Now, agreement is another way for contract. So now we have a contract in place. Okay, that was the idea. So the main thrust of conducted procurements is to carry out the bidding process, to select the vendors and to have these agreements. So the output is agreement. And we have the selected sellers, so we'll have a list of those, and we know who we're selling, who we're buying from. And so you can see now as we look around that we have a change request coming out of stakeholders, a change request coming out of implement risk responses. And so there's no other outputs. So it's an interesting one. There's not a huge amount of outputs. So let's go down now and have a look at controlling. Now, controlling is an interesting one because you can see that the change requests and the work performance information are like the Gemini twins. They go around together. So here they are together, here they are, 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 here they are. So you see them kind of flowing around together, almost like the orchestra in this case, the lighthouse, going around to say that I'm looking to produce information. Information comes from data, but also looking for change requests because of that information. And there may be request be that there's no request, but you get the idea that that's the concept that I'm going to look for. The primary output in all of controlling is going to be the work performance reports. And that comes from here, monitor and control project work. So we get the data and we produce this thing of work performance reports. Now that means the data has to be massaged somehow. And that means the data becomes information and the information becomes the knowledge, which is captured here in the work performance reports. We'll see that in three types: the progress reports, the status reports, and the forecast reports. So that's what's going to happen over here. So you can see here that in control the schedule, we're going to have this idea of change requests, okay, and performance, but also schedule forecasts. So now we're going to look forward, okay? So we're going to be looking forward, and then likewise the same in cost, but instead of putting scheduled forecast, we've got the we have the cost forecast. So we have the scheduled forecasts, we have the cost forecasts. I was getting confused with the TCPI that we're going to see as a tool and technique. So the two complete performance index, which will help us to identify this cost forecasting. So now we have a scheduled forecast and a cost forecast. There is very useful, but you can see here, not very many loose outputs. Mostly it's change requests and work performance in. So let's have a look at this one. When it comes to control the procurements, we have the change requests and the work performance information as outputs, but also closed procurements. Okay, closed procurements, meaning that we used to have it down here in closing. PMBOK, I think the latest people decided that no, the project manager is not often involved in actually closing it, but they'll have it as part of that process of monitoring and controlling. And we would do that here. Now, interesting ones here, we have this idea of quality, control quality. Now, obviously, control quality will give us a couple of deliverables. You can see it there. And the first one is going to be the quality control measurements. Okay, what are the measurements that we're getting out of the testing that we're doing, the inspections that we're doing? But the primary one is going to be this one, and it's called verified deliverables. So verified deliverables are things that were delivered here, and then they are checked, tested, inspected, and then verified as being correct, and not being complete, but being correct. And then what we do is we have this one here, which is called validate the scope. And in validate the scope, we make another determination that it is accepted and therefore it is complete. So here it is produced, no determination. Here it is checked to see that it is correct. Here it is checked to see that it is complete. And only then can we close the project here. Now, one final one that gets us out of this kind of spiral going around, if you think of it, or controlling, is that either you can exit this way, which is to close, or you go back around with a change request. And so that makes sense that we would have this one, which is the approved change requests. So the approved change requests are the output of perform integrated change control. And now you can see what I mean. All of these change requests come into this one place. Somehow they're processed in accordance with the change control decisions that we put back here in the requirements. They could have been an organizational process asset. And if they are approved, well, then they go back into the plan. Do you understand that? They go back into the plan. And so that's what we want to capture here, is that the steering committee or the change control board gathers all the change requests in here. I didn't want to put all the lines in, but you get the idea. They gather them here. And then finally, so controlling is ongoing while execution is ongoing. There's two ways out of this. One is back and around again as we do this plan, do, check, act cycle as we keep going. But the other one is to finish or close the project. And if you close the project, well, then we have one more output here, which is going to be the final product, service, or results transition. Now, remember, we could be closing a phase, in which case we have produced a business case, we produced designs, we produced something. It may not be the final product, but it will be certainly a step along the way as part of the phase. So it's closed project or phase. So I hope you enjoyed that. What we looked at there was the processes and the outputs. And of course, in order to do justice to this beautiful book, we now have to look at the tools and techniques. And you've seen them here, the tools and techniques. Now, a tool and technique can be used in different places. The outputs only in one place. Typically, the scope statement will only come from here. The project charter will only come from here. The schedule will only come from here. The cost forecasts would only come from here. However, a tool and technique could be used in multiple places, just as you could use your hammer or your saw in the basement or in the attic. We need to see that that's what the tools and techniques are there to help us with. So when you come back, we'll have a look at that. Looking forward to seeing you in the next video.